Jordan said, oh boy. You know, anytime I see that in a question, I'm just like...
I probably didn't say that.
Yeah, I probably didn't say that, but here we are. Jordan said during the seminar that enjoyment in exercise has the biggest impact on adherence. Oh, that's true. I did say that. Coming back to lifting after a long layoff. I found it difficult to find enjoyment with weights that are so far below what I used to be able to do. Any suggestions or resources on how to start enjoying training again? I don't have any resources on this. It'd be great if we had a book that was like, enjoying training, like just like a whole book on like how to make
starting enjoyment.
Yeah, starting pleasure, like, you know, just yes, lifting weights is very pleasurable. Yeah, that's gross. So the
starting hedonism.
Starting hedonism, yeah, a way to use light weights to All right, I actually do have a strategy for this because this happened to me. I did CrossFit for like 8 months. Yeah, I experimented with the dark arts, and I lost a substantial amount of weight and a substantial amount of strength. Now, I'm not sure those two things were related because I wasn't really lifting weights during that time. I was doing a bunch of Olympic lifts, and I wasn't squatting, benching, or deadlifting, and yeah, my weight went down as well. So when I came back, I remember I squatted. I used Leah's belt. This is how like. Yeah, yes. This is how like cachectic I was. I was 100. I remember Tom and I came back from Australia, and I was 85 kilos, which is like all of 185 pounds or something like that. And I used Leah's belt, and I squatted 180 kilos, which is 396 for a hard triple. A hard triple. To be clear, I've benched that before for a triple. So like things were bad.
That's bad.
And I was like, what? So I'd recently decided to like quit doing CrossFit because I didn't like it. And then, so enjoyment was low. And I was like, I'll just go back to powerlifting because I love that. And then I did powerlifting for one day and I was like, no, where's all my strength? So the strategy that I used on the exercises that I had a lot of history with, so squat, bench, deadlift, I changed the rep range to things I didn't have experience with. So for example, I had never really done squats or bench or deadlift for sets of 8 and 10. I stuck to mostly those, and I picked different exercise variations that I had very little experience with previously, so that I didn't have this like historical like performance barometer that I kept going up against. And so I did that. And honestly, I remember it was like 6 to 8 weeks after I came back, I was within about 10% of my normal strength levels. And so I was happy again and could train like relatively regularly. The benefits of this are kind of twofold. One, you don't hate yourself every time you go to the gym and think, woe is me, this is the worst I've ever performed in my whole life. And then benefit number 2 is that you're sort of gradually retraining yourself to do a different thing. So remember, I'd been doing CrossFit for 8 months. I was not squatting, benching, and deadlifting like I was during my normal powerlifting training. Had I just switched back to powerlifting with no sort of bridge in between, that could have potentially been problematic for me. However, I had this sort of on-ramp where I was able to sort of get back to that normal training, and so that worked out pretty well for me. So generally, that's how I recommend folks do that. If they have a specific goal that's different than their normal that we've been training for a while, and then they want to go back to a previous type of training, I program this like GPP-related bridge where the rep ranges are different, the exercise selection is different, so they don't have this like, again, historical thing that they're comparing themselves against each single time. You can do that a lot of different ways. You can do that with rep ranges, you can do it with adding chains or bands or different barbells or different sort of range of motion or tempo. There's a lot of different things you can use.
I just actually dealt with this very scenario, although not entirely due to a liftoff. I had a patient of mine who I have been working with for a little while who was recently diagnosed with cancer. And specifically, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and one of the standard treatments for prostate cancer is what's called androgen deprivation therapy, where you basically get put on testosterone blockers. You can think of it like that. You get like chemically castrated, basically to prevent androgen stimulating the prostate cancer from growing anymore. So we're intentionally making him hypogonadal, and he was observing that his performance was going down in the gym. When you're truly hypogonadal, then sure, we would expect that your performance is going to be altered with that. And he was having some distress over this because he pulled 500 at nationals last year, and now he's like, I'm seeing my numbers start to change. And so what should I do? I'm not really loving training now that I'm weaker. And I just said, we need to change the metrics of performance here. we need to pick some different exercises, right? Rather than a competition squat and a competition deadlift and a pause bench press, we need to pick some other things that you haven't done before, give you some new opportunities to PR, right? So now that if you're going to be doing pause squats and deficit deadlifts and stuff like that, every time you train is going to be a PR. And so we changed the strategy, and he's now fully on board with that idea and training with some different things. So again, same deal, so that he doesn't have this constant prior performance to compare himself to. So that's what we did with him. So effectively the same thing, just do different things, and you'll have less of a metric of comparison.
Yeah, just change the goalposts.
Yeah.
Boom.